So, ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Béhar from Kantar. A rare appearance, or semi-rare. So welcome. We couldn't be more excited to have you here. So first of all, you've been in the job for around 8 months?
Yes.
What's it been like? Give us a sense of what you've learned.
First, I'm incredibly intimidated and excited to be here. So thank you for having me. So yes, it's been 7 months. And a couple days. So I think there's a couple thoughts I wanted to share. The first thing that hit me, and it's confirming the discussion today, is the level of passion and commitment in this industry to change not just measurement, but the overall media ecosystem, both on the advertising and on the content side. I want to talk a bit about the content side coming from Sky Comcast, because we talk a lot about what measurement industry does for advertising, but we should talk about what it does for content decision, content investment decisions as well. I've been around. I've been to the US a couple times. I've been to Latin America a couple times. I've been to Switzerland. I've been to Israel. I've been to Sweden. I've been to France, obviously. I'm French. I spent a lot of time in the UK. Going to the Netherlands, visiting the teams. And there's one thing that resonates is the incredible level of passion and commitment that I've seen at Kantar Media, but also at every one of our clients, whether it's a GIC market or a non-GIC market, for the quality. And that's not just the market-facing teams, the commercial teams, that's also operations, technology, product, all working hand in hand, obviously, finance, legal, HR, all working hand in hand to do that. That's number one. The second observation, and that's why I'm particularly excited to be here today in conferences like that, it's collaboration in the industry. Incredibly important for me, given where I come from. Not enough in my mind, and we should talk about that. I think as an industry, we have a duty to push the thinking and work, what I call that push and pull with our clients in terms of we push innovation, but we get pulled by them as well in terms of being more thoughtful, more innovative. And I was fascinated by some of the panel discussion this morning, and the one around, is the data converging or not? I thought that was a fascinating question that you asked. I think we can do a better job at collaboration. And I think places like this one are essential to be able to do that even more. Not just on the US, East, West, but also more of that in Europe and in the rest of the world.
Cool, that's great. Let's talk a bit about Sky. So, as I suspect lots of people know, before the current role, you were Chief Business Officer at Sky. You spent a lot of time in a set-top box-based environment. You saw what Sky was doing with streaming and programmatic, with addressable and other things. How has that informed the way you're thinking about Kantar's future?
So a couple of things. So I had the pleasure of being at Sky Comcast for close to 5 years. First, I thought it was an amazing training ground to become a chief exec, because I believe that being a chief exec or becoming a chief exec is an apprenticeship job, and you can only learn by watching people do it. And I was incredibly blessed by having who I think was one of the best CEO on the planet, Steven Van Rooyen, who recently left Sky, and obviously Dana Strong as well. So that was fantastic. The one thing that I learned at Sky, and especially in the UK market, I think I said that in one of my previous speeches, is the UK has done a really good job at collaboration. And I'm going to take one example, which is C-Flight. As you guys know, C-Flight was invented by my little cousin when I was at Sky from NBCU. We took C-Flight, tried to make it a little bit better with some more modeling done by RSMB in there. And then Sky started using C-Flight and one campaign, and then you've seen there's been a lot of press around one campaign that we created around giving advertisers the ability to buy seamlessly between linear, VOD, AdSmart, and digital in the process. And then what we did is we took C-Flight and we gifted it to ITV and Channel 4 so that the whole industry can adopt it and lift the level of adoption, because if the level of the C rises, it's better for everyone in there. And then we realized that it was just not good enough to do that. The best place to nurture and build C-Flight and make it even better is actually Barb. And Barb is now operating and administrating and being the custodian of C-Flight. And I think it's a great thing for the industry.
Because it's interesting. I mean, your point about collaboration, I think, is well made. And obviously, the challenge is that the UK market is a lot smaller than the US marketplace. I recall speaking to your former colleague, Jeff Eales, who came in and presented some of his work on Carrier. And at the end of it, a US exec asked him, that's amazing. How did you build out this incredible advertising metadata system? And Jeff sort of shrugged and said, we only had to get 3 people to agree to it, and I was one of them. So it wasn't that hard. Obviously, the US is a much bigger, messier marketplace.
So I know Jeff incredibly well because he used to work with me. He's missing one important component. It's 4. Don't forget the BBC. And getting the BBC to agree with you, it's not that easy, guys. It counts as 20 broadcasters in the US in terms of collaboration.
Right.
But it's a fair point.
Okay, so let's talk about Kantar's aspirations in the US. You're over here. You're obviously taking this marketplace. Would you like to be sitting next to the other 4 horsemen of the apocalypse?
They're lovely. I've got
This
a
time
huge.
next year?
I've got a huge amount of respect for. I know all of them individually pretty well. A huge amount of respect for what they do. They're doing something amazing. I'm delighted to have the pleasure to talk to you one-on-one and not being part of that panel. Look, I've got a point of view on that one, which is there's a lot of things bubbling. There's a lot of initiatives, right? And the discussion this morning really showed that. But none of them have been born fully yet. We know, I think I use that expression. We know a baby is going to be born. We don't know yet in which maternity that baby is going to be born, right? Obviously, I have the aspiration that Kantar Media can be maybe not the whole maternity, but a part of that maternity, maybe a wing of that maternity that we would like to be able to sponsor. And
so the interesting question then is what differentiates Kantar? I mean, you have an incredible global business, as you've sort of alluded to. Is there something that Kantar you think does which is very unique in the measurement marketplace?
So look, so first I only been there 7 months, and I can't pretend I know in depth what Nielsen, Comscore, VideoAmp, or iSpot are doing. And I think we're all towards the same quest for the same grail somewhere around cross-media measurement. But I think we come to this, and I come to this with a set of very fundamental beliefs. I think some of them were touched upon this morning. The first thing is that it's good to have diversity and competition because that's going to foster innovation. Point number 1. Point number 2, it is good that the data may not be the same one or may not converge to the same data. What is important is that we understand why it is not converging to the same point. And that every one of you, especially on the buy side, really understand what's driving those differences. Number 3 is the role of the panel. Obviously, I've got a point of view, which is the role of the panel is changing. It's no longer measuring, it's measuring and calibrating. And frankly, I don't care if it's big data and panel or panel and big data. I think that's semantic around this. But what I think is important is, can we do something better about combining the two, right? And there's all kind of big data. There's big data in my mind coming from the social platform. There's big data coming from the more traditional broadcasters. By the way, being one of them, historically, I don't like the word traditional. I like to call them a hybrid broadcaster because I think the future is digital. If you look at what NBC is doing with Peacock, for instance, Paramount with Paramount Plus, and all the Disney with Disney Plus, obviously. How can I forget? So hybrid, and then obviously all the RPD set-top box data that were a lot part of it. So I think the ability to integrate that, manage that, bring some insights, do it fast, do it cheap as well, is important. So the fact that Kantar Media has Take Edge, very, very important for us, right? That's one of my big focus of investment and priorities, and Take Edge is going to develop and expand in the US market to do that. One of the things I've done, and we will talk about that, I've got an amazing team, but I've decided very quickly that I wanted to reinforce the product side of the business because that's the heart of the nuclear reactor, and bringing product and Take Edge a lot more together because a lot of what they do is actually similar. I think that's going to give us the ability to be more flexible, faster, and cheaper.
So given those capabilities, and as usual, this is not investment advice, are you acquisitive in the US marketplace? Do you see that? Do you see a logic to a certain kind of industrial consolidation?
So I think that word has a lot of different meaning, and I'm trying to unpack it. For sure, we're a lot more strategic in a sense that, number one, we want to be acquisitive in terms of talent. right? It starts with talent, and it starts with diversity around talent, right? I'm not going to shy away from it. When I came in, team not massively diverse. By the way, it applies a lot to the advertising industry. I had the same issue at Sky Media. I'm the incredibly proud father of two young female teenagers. Actually, they yell at me when I call them teenager, they're young adults now. And that's a topic that I'm absolutely religious about this, bringing that. The number two, so talent is number one in terms of acquisition. Number two is obviously we're private equity owned. We got to be financially prudent and responsible to do that. However, as we're building more capabilities, as the role of panel evolve, as data science becomes more and more critical, as AI becomes the biggest buzzword of 2023 and 24, we should talk about that. I need to expand the capabilities that Kantar Media has, and I'm definitely acquisitive from a capability standpoint.
So it's a definite yes then?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
While being financially prudent and responsible.
I can see...
Like my CFO is not going to yell at me for saying that.
I can see banks sharpening their slide rules even as we speak.
Oh, what banks so well do, trust me.
Okay, so next questions. What worries you about the future of measurement? Do you worry about walled gardens, about fragmentation, about fraud, about privacy, about signal loss? Which of the many things you could theoretically worry about actually keeps you up at night?
So there's, like every one of the people you had on the panel this morning, everyone is a bit paranoid, naturally. There's one thing that you have not mentioned and it's coming from my years running Sky Media, guys, which is as a community, I want to be I'd like to have a small contribution to elevate the visibility and the presence of measurement within media companies. I think what we do collectively, buy side, sell side, measurement companies, is essential not just to advertising, but to content decisions as well. And I think sometimes we don't talk about that enough, right? 60% of the cost of Sky is content acquisition, 61%, right? And we can't do proper investment decisions, renegotiation of big licensing deal, hub bundling deals without very, very precise view of measurement. And I'm going to say something a bit provocative, so please forgive me. But if I look at, I'm going to take the UK as an example so that you guys don't yell at me in the US. But if I look at most sales house in the UK, the measurement person is not senior enough in the organigram, in the org chart. I think given the importance of that role, given the complexity of that role in terms of knowing the inner workings of the industry, knowing the impact on advertising, knowing the impact on content, the data science capability, that is maybe the second most important role in the sales house after the MD or the CEO, depending on the title in there.
My strong theory is that no one in this audience will shout at you for saying that measurement professionals should be paid more.
That's a consequence. That's an obvious one.
I think that's profoundly popular across
Give me a
the
call, I'll help negotiate, don't worry about it.
I guess then the question we should move on to is innovation, and we should of course talk about AI. Do you think half of all measurement professionals will be replaced by AI over the next 5 years?
Not.
It's not going to happen.
Absolutely
But you're excited about AI, I think.
I'm excited about AI because it's going to help us do a few things. There's the obvious thing, the less obvious things, right? Obviously, coming from Sky, I have in my mind, how does that make our operations business a lot smarter? How to get be more intelligent in terms of meters, preventive maintenance, reducing costs, making it more affordable for our customers, and doing all that. That's not the obvious one, but I guess everyone would think about that. But also, how do we get the data in an unstructured form and use AI and Gen AI to make it a lot more structured with faster decision-making process? I'm interested in that.
Awesome. Patrick Béhar, a massive thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.